Welcome, folks, and thank you for joining us for this interview with Chris Attrell. My name is Mark Allard-Will, and I'm a landscape photographer and comic book writer local to Saskatoon. I have a couple of quick introductory messages to bring to you before we jump on over into the interview. And the first is to let you know that this interview is brought to you as a celebration of May is Photo Month through a collaboration between London Drugs and Turning the Tide Bookstores. London Drugs is a 100% Canadian-owned company headquartered in BC with stores in more than 35 centres across Western Canada, including 5 in Saskatchewan. Many locations feature full-service photo centres offering everything from high-quality printing and enlargements to wall decor, film processing, new and used camera gear, and much more, all supported by knowledgeable staff, many of whom are photographers themselves. Find out more at londondrugs.com. As for Turning the Tide Bookstores, they were established in 2003, and Turning the Tide is Saskatoon's alternative bookstore, offering an excellent selection of fiction and hand-picked non-fiction books on current events, sustainable living, and generally making the world a better place. Beyond this, the store also offers cookbooks, graphic novels, children's books, magazines, and of course, photo books. And you can find out more about Turning the Tide Bookstore at turning.ca. All right, Chris, thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Could I get you, for the uninitiated here, could I get you to introduce both yourself and your work to the audience, please?
Okay, well, my name is Chris Attrell. I live in Shaunavon, Saskatchewan. I'm mostly a night photographer, but I also do stuff like shoot abandoned places all over Western Canada mostly. And I used to teach photo classes all over Western Canada, but now I'm mostly a YouTuber.
Wonderful. And what was it that drew you to photography in the first place?
Well, I've always had a camera back in the film days. Like it started when I was a kid. I just had a camera every once in a while, took pictures of stuff because I really enjoyed it. But that's when the film days when you had to spend money on film and developing. So I really got serious about it. I lived in Calgary. I'd go to Banff all the time, take pictures, and you know, but you still had to pay for it. But when it became digital cameras, and especially when I moved to the middle of nowhere, Saskatchewan, where I live now, photography sort of became my hobby because I wasn't into farming, wasn't into hockey, curling, all that stuff. So photography sort of became my companion.
Wonderful. And your images are so striking and haunting. And I'm wondering what it is that drew you to your genre of photography in particular.
Well, when I still lived in Calgary, I took a surprise trip out of the blue just to go look at like ghost towns and abandoned places in southwest Saskatchewan before I ended up moving to. But I was really drawn to them because like this was like decades of some family's history, or the abandoned grain elevator. That was like decades of the town's history. And there it is, just sitting there all alone, looking depressed, lonely. And so they make great subjects, and they were all over the place in rural areas. So, uh, and especially being in Southwest Saskatchewan, it's also part of obviously the culture around here too.
Yeah, that's so true. And there's so much life, like you say, there's a history to those buildings that lives beyond them, that lives in the carcass, if you will, that remains. And I have memories of shooting abandoned vehicles just outside of Drumheller, and a local approaching me and telling me the story behind them. And it put this life into something that I didn't assign life to. So what I'm wondering now, with your really beautiful photography, is, you know, what is it that goes into capturing images like that?
Well, yeah, you kind of want to try to like that's why I like shooting abandoned places in particular. Not always using midday sun, like beautiful days. I like to shoot different lighting because you want to kind of give it that hauntingly beautiful look, or that sort of magical, and that usually comes from light, cloud conditions, seasons. So that's how I usually approach abandoned stuff. Plus, we have a lot of bad weather in Southwest Saskatchewan, so it's pretty easy to get good light.
Yeah, for sure. And touching upon that, what gear do you shoot with?
Okay, well, for years I shot with just an average camera. I had a Nikon 7000 for a long time, which is the average lens, and I had some nice night lenses. But now I do shoot with a full frame Nikon Z6 II, and I use the kit lens that came with it most times, but not always. I actually like that lens because it's light. But I do have stuff like a wide angle, wide aperture lens with, for night photography because you need it. And of course, I do have a telephoto lens and about 4 prime lenses. Those are lenses with no zoom.
Brilliant. And you do a lot of traveling for your work, as we've kind of touched upon there. Do you have any favorite locations across North America?
Oh yeah. Oh, you know what? Okay. Of course, I like Southwest Saskatchewan the best. That's just because I live here and it's got the best subjects. Like I just love it. Southern Alberta because you've got the Badlands, you've got the mountains, you've got the ghost towns. There's so many great places. But I'm also drawn very heavily to that whole area from about Barstow, California, right up Interstate 15 until you get to Alberta. It goes right from Los Angeles, Barstow, across Nevada, Utah, into Montana. It's got all the best states all on one highway.
Brilliant. And you've touched upon the fact that you shoot abandoned Saskatchewan. We saw some of it in the slideshow there. But what is it that really attracted you to abandoned rural Saskatchewan and capturing it in the first place?
Well, a lot of it has to do with it. I've always been a night owl, and I love night photography. Night photography and abandoned places just go together perfectly. I mean, it's a little bit more challenging, of course, because it's really remote. And it's in lonely areas, but that and the fact that I am also interested in the history. I'm also fascinated by the lifestyle those people had. I mean, you showed up there in 1913. You built your house, and in wintertime, you didn't have any power. You didn't have plumbing, but yet you were very grateful and you loved it. And I sort of also find that part to be fascinating too.
Yeah, there's such a historicity to these places, and the fact that they're encapsulated in time and frozen in time when things are moving so fast now. There's something so enrapturing about that. And you've touched upon the fact that you travel a lot for work. Travel is time, time is money. So what I'm wondering is, are you able to make a career out of photography? And if so, could you give some advice to aspiring photographers who are looking to build a career out of their work?
Well, my career for like making money was for like years doing the photo classes all over Western Canada. So that's why I was able to travel a lot. I'm doing classes from Nanaimo, BC, right to Winnipeg. It took me everywhere. Classes are a little harder to sell out now than they used to be, but that is a good way to make a little bit of money is by trying to do some photo classes, whether in field or in classroom. But now I've switched to YouTube. Making money off YouTube takes a little bit more time because you have to build an audience, which I've done. But it's also rewarding because you can go whenever you want. It's not based on the schedule. If it's bad weather, you stay home. If it's good weather, you take off.
Brilliant. And your career has also blossomed into this, now at this time, a lengthy career in publishing photo books. I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit more how that came about.
Okay, well, that actually started in 2019 when a book publisher in Nova Scotia contacted me and asked me if I had enough photos to do a Saskatchewan photo book. And of course I did. I immediately jumped on that one. Um, so that's how I got started with that. And then that book came out in 2019. By the way, it was the Amazon's best-selling photo book in Canada for the year. I was very happy about that too. So I done another one in 2021 on grain elevators. And this summer, Forgotten Saskatchewan 2 will be coming out. But the one thing that was very interesting that my book publisher said, if anybody's ever thinking about doing their own book publisher through themselves or a publisher, the fact that my photos were done all seasons, all different times of day, using different kinds of composition, and just as importantly, it was obvious I was not photoshopping my images, is one of the biggest reasons why they contacted me. If you just shoot the same subject with the same style of composition, same season, same lighting techniques, it's just going to look ordinary. So it was the variety, not the technical skills, the variety that, the diversity of photos that drew interest to me, or drew them to me, sorry.
Wonderful. And you kind of touched there, when you're talking about the acclaimed Forgotten Saskatchewan, you were touching upon some tips and tricks for photographers there, but I kind of wanted to expand on that a little bit. If we were to look at photographers who they've maybe established a bit of a career themselves, but they don't know where to begin with working towards photo books, what advice would you give to them to start going down that path of photo books?
Oh, you mean like if they're not using a book publisher?
Either way, if they want to approach a publisher or if they want to self-publish, just for getting going.
Well, yeah, that's what I do the most. Like, if you're going to get going, it's to sort of like first come up with an inventory of what you think are your best interests or your best photos. But also, when you're pursuing those photos, do pursue making each photo. You want to try to have like a different goal. You don't all want to have them be middle of summer, daytime light. You want some evening, some bad weather. There's lots of bad weather, cloudy days, fall pictures, winter pictures. It also makes those kind of days more exciting because you get excited when you got bad weather now because you get to go taking photos. But I would say more than anything, above all else, it's hard work. It's worrying about lighting and composition more than it is obsessing over technical skills. You could do this with an average camera, with an average lens, if you work harder.
Wonderful. And obviously, you've touched upon the diversity of photos, the diversity of composition and lighting there. But what goes into curating the photos for a photo book?
Well, that one you usually get help from like family too, right? Because I have different opinions on what everybody else does. So I choose the ones that I like. And then I get help from my friends and my family and ask them which ones they like. And then when they do find one they like, and I didn't choose it my list, I do ask them why they like it, because everybody has a different opinion. So I do think value your friends and your loved ones' opinions on these as well, but at the same time, keep your standards high so that you don't start uploading stuff that just looks terrible.
Fantastic. And you touched upon it earlier. You have this successful YouTube career. Could you tell us how that came to be?
Well, that was mostly because during the pandemic, it was very difficult for people who do photo classes or any kind of classes because, as you know, that was 2 years of they would have lockdowns and then they would say, okay, you could go back out. And then 2 months later, it was like lockdowns and masks again. So he kept canceling classes, but kept incurring the costs. So I was making nothing. So I started making YouTube videos just to see if I liked it and if it would work. And it actually did pretty well to the point where it took about 2 to 3 years of YouTube before you could actually make a full-time living off of it.
Oh, wow, that's fantastic. And what are some of the highlights so far of your YouTube career?
Oh, well, one is, it was here. I got my 100,000, here it is. I got my 100,000 YouTube subscriber trophy last fall. So this was actually pretty, I didn't think I'd be that excited, but I actually was really excited to get that. But the fact that now you can start planning trips anywhere you want to go because you know we could go there and make YouTube videos. And so you're not coming home with expenses. You're coming home with, you're going to make money off this trip. But it also coincided with the time of my life when I'm tired of being on the road all the time because I spent 10 years doing photo classes on the road. So it's like I can go anywhere, but I just want to be home with my wife and my cats. But that is also still a thrill. I can just almost go anywhere.
Wonderful. And for those watching this interview who are perhaps looking at building a YouTube career for themselves, what advice would you give to them?
Oh yeah, that one's going to be easy. The one thing I've learned over my years of doing this, by taking bad advice on YouTube and good advice on YouTube, is always value your viewers' time. Don't ever extend videos. Don't give them hooks. Don't trick them. At the end of your video, you want your viewer to feel satisfied because YouTube is going to serve more videos to people if people watch multiple videos that you put out, not how excited by one video. So never waste your viewers' time.
Wonderful. And what advice would you give for the videography skills if somebody hasn't really played with that before?
You know what? You can get by because I spent money buying better video equipment. You can get by with just a good GoPro and a good camera, but you have to have above average audio. You can never have crappy audio. You can't have wind blowing in your microphone. You can't have loud popping sounds. You just can't have offensive audio. So don't worry about the video equipment so much. You could use your phone. You could just go to London Drugs and get the average DSLR camera with video. That'll be fine, or a GoPro. But do spend the money on the microphone. Like I bought from London Drugs those wireless Rode microphones that just clip on. So one clips onto your shirt, one clips onto your camera. It's like $250. Not the best, but it's definitely not terrible. So work on your audio skills, and then work on every time you make a video, you just want to get 3% better.
Brilliant. And you touched upon this earlier. You do a lot of teaching, or have done a lot of teaching and workshops in the past. What does it feel like when you either discover or learn that one of your students has become an established photographer?
Yeah, that is one of the best thrills ever. It's happened to me like a couple dozen times. Someone went to your class, you taught them stuff, and then all of a sudden you see them, you know, they're succeeding very, very good, you know, traveling the country and stuff. Yeah, that's a great feeling. And you know what? It's one of the reasons I think also too, in my class, I taught people your photography career, your photography relationship should be fun and exciting and satisfying. You shouldn't compete with other people. You should just love doing what you're doing. If you love doing what you're doing, it's going to show up in your work. So that also makes me happy seeing these people, because one thing that's common, they all love doing what they're doing.
That's brilliant. That's the best you can ask for. Yeah, that's wonderful. And this interview might inspire a couple of folks to pick up a camera, maybe folks who haven't touched a camera before, so they're novice. It might be a little bit intimidating for them. What would you recommend as a good starting point for a day one newcomer?
Okay, well, there's a couple, everybody has different opinions on this, and I appreciate all people's opinions. But I'm very serious about this. You don't have to buy the most expensive camera. I bought a entry-level Canon M50 6 years ago for my YouTube videos. It's very entry-level camera, but it's small and it's light. So I end up using that a lot. You could do great things with an average camera, but you could also have an expensive camera and not have any skills at all, and your pictures will still won't look good. So just get what you can afford, and then you outgrow your equipment, and then that's when you upgrade.
Great. And what about for the process of learning the exposure triangle and learning how to capture an image? What recommendations would you give to those day one newcomers to begin that part of the journey as well?
Okay, no, that's a good point, because you know, now that you got these digital cameras and they do a great job, you no longer have to shoot in full manual mode, except for specialty stuff like night photography. Most of my daytime shots are shot in aperture mode. So on Nikon's, that's the A, and I think Canon's AV, aperture value. That means you set the aperture and your camera selects the shutter speed. That's 95% of my daytime shots. I posted my YouTube video teaching you how to shoot in aperture mode, and I'll have a better one coming out next month. But if you use the semi-manual modes, it'll take you 3 hours to learn and about 20 to 30 hours of experience to get good at it. And you can start taking great looking pictures out of the camera without shooting full manual mode.
Wonderful. And you kind of touched upon what gear to get and what gear to look for, but there's this whole plethora of different ways to get gear, and it's kind of a little bit intimidating for newcomers. You know, there's used market, and there's a whole different variety of used market. There's the new gear. What recommendations would you have for newcomers to get A, advice on getting gear, and B, where to look?
Okay, well, if you're going to buy used, Marketplace can be a good place, but it's also be a terrible place. If you're buying it from Marketplace from a verified person and they're in your community and they look like they are really a photographer, it's not a bad idea. But I've heard a lot of cases of people buying stolen gear that's damaged by buying it on Marketplace. So there's that risk. One thing I never do, or I should say very rarely do, is buying it online. I'm not going to mention those places, but when you buy it from a place that's not a camera store, you might save $4 or $5 and have it shipped. But part of your responsibility being a photographer is making relationships with people. And that includes your camera stores. So, because I live in Shaunavon, there's no camera stores here. I usually drive to Medicine Hat to go to London Drugs. That's where I get most of my gear because you get the relationship. They're going to sell you the right thing. You're going to get that 30-day money back guarantee, and they're going to qualify you to make sure you're getting really what you want to get. It's happened to me, even though I know what I'm doing. They've still recommended to me I should buy that Rode microphone instead of buying the one that I saw on the internet to get right. So I still to this day buy from camera stores.
Wonderful, thank you for that. And obviously photo printing and photo finishing plays a large part in what you do, but it also plays a large part in what many photographers may seek to do as they get further into their photographic journey. What advice would you give to new photographers to begin that kind of photo finishing journey?
Oh yeah, that's actually another good one. I'd say about 12 years ago, I had my first experience with printing when I wanted to do a show here in Shaunavon. So I actually used a place where they just printed it, like they say they print. It was terrible. Um, so you actually if you're going to order prints, I'd recommend you buy it from an actual photo printing place, like a real one. If you don't like, if you live in the middle of nowhere like I do in Shaunavon, we don't have any around here. So you can upload your photos to say like London Drugs. That's what I usually do. You could pick them up in London Drugs usually pretty quickly, or they'll ship it to you for like $8. I mean, it's nothing. But if you're not doing it from a photo printing place, if you're just ordering online from some generic place, you really don't know what you're getting. And it's serious. When you put in a gallery showing or even as a gift, you want the quality that a professional photo place will give you. And I highly recommend you don't cheap out on that.
And I know that you've said that you don't do much editing, but editing does play a big part in the photo finishing journey as well. Do you have any recommendations for new photographers on that side of things, on the editing side of things?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Editing is going to be part of your photography personality too. It's going to show up in your style of work. So first advice to do the kind of editing you like to do. If you don't like editing like me, I don't like editing. I just stick to the basics, which is usually the contrast panel, shadows, highlights, vibrance, blacks, whites. There's about 12 different tools that I use. 15 years ago, Adobe Lightroom was just the basics. Now it's expanded to this monster program that takes hours to learn. So my recommendation is figure what you like to do. And if you just like to do very minimal editing, straighten a picture, crop it, you can use the free program that came with Windows or your Apple laptop. But whatever program you do decide to use, do take tutorials and learn how to use it properly, but don't obsess over editing. I do very minimal editing, and I'm happier that way. So just do what you like.
Fantastic, thank you. And something that really strikes me with your work, really beautiful work, is the fact that Saskatchewan and rural Saskatchewan is the character, if you will. It's landscape work, it's nighttime photography, but in a way it's portrait photography because the character is abandoned rural Saskatchewan. What I want to ask you here is a bit of a preamble going into my question, but when we live here in the Canadian prairies, there's this temptation to think there's nothing here, there's nothing to attract people, nobody comes here because why would they want to? But in the photography world, as you will know as much as I do, the Canadian prairies seem to attract landscape photographers from around the world. What is it, do you think, about rural Saskatchewan, about the prairies that brings people from around the world to us?
Oh, that's a good question because I actually get contacted this a lot of times. Like, there's a guy coming from New Jersey right now just to steal all this stuff. He messaged me, but I can tell you one reason is, well, one of the most obvious reasons is we don't have a tourist problem here. When you live in Banff, there's too many tourists. Southwest Saskatchewan, none. So you get that sort of like places all by yourself. It also feels more authentic because they're not tourist attractions. If you go to any place now, like in Banff, everything's a tourist attraction. Everything on Route 66 is a tourist attraction now. Like there's people and there's like soda shops and souvenirs. Rural Saskatchewan and rural Alberta still have that feeling that it's authentic because it is. Um, you kind of like you could disappear. You're the only person there in a lot of these places. Also they're not here because they're counting on good weather. You never know what you're going to get when you're in Alberta, Saskatchewan. It could rain, snow, wind, light. Um, So it's a mystery, and that's part of the excitement.
That's awesome. Yeah, I really love that perspective. Thank you for that. So that's really the end of my questions here. I just want to let everyone know that Chris's book, Forgotten Saskatchewan, is available through Turning the Tide Bookstore in Saskatoon, both in-store and online at turning.ca. Chris, where can people find you online?
Okay, so you can just go to YouTube and type in my name, Chris Attrell. My channel shows up because it's under my name. If you type in my name, you can find my website, and yeah, my books will be at Turning the Tide. If you want to get one.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time, Chris. Thank you so much for doing this interview with us, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You too.